Hello student. Um, Last lecture 2 engineering mechanics topic frictions. Last class we have already discussed about the frictions, definition of frictions, type of frictions, static, dynamic, type of dynamic frictions. It is sliding frictions and rolling frictions and others. Now today we are going to present the new topics. The topic is limiting frictions. What is limiting frictions? The limiting frictions is the maximum value of static frictions that come into the play when the body just at a point sliding over the surface of the other point. Here we can see that the movement of the body is moved left to right directions, and friction force is work in the opposite directions of the moving body, and the normal reactions act upon at the opposite directions of the weight of the body, and that is the normal directions. Means the limiting frictions, what is the limiting frictions? Is the frictions the minimum value of static frictions that body just a point of a sliding over the surface of the sliding over the surface of another body. It is the minimum value of the frictional forces that body try to sliding over the another surface is called the limiting frictions. Now, coefficient of frictions. Coefficient of frictions defined as the ratio of the limiting frictions force to the normal reaction force. If the normal reaction force taken Fn and the frictional force take is F, then we can easily write here mu is equal to capital F by Fn, where Fn is the normal reactions. Here we can see that this is the normal force and this is the frictional force. Then normal reactions in is directly proportional to the frictional force, where frictional force act upon the opposite direction to the moving body. Now here, so we can easily write here the uh, frictional force means F, and the normal reaction Fn is equal to mu is equal to capital F by capital A. Now coefficient of frictions, we can easily find out the mu F by capital N. And next topic is the limited angle of frictions. Here we can see that the angle of the normal reactions is capital Rn and the frictional force is capital F. We know that the capital F is equal to mu into Rn. Then the angle between the the resultant force between the normal reaction and the frictional force, that is the R, only R, and the angle made between the resultant force and the normal reaction, here you can see that the phi angle is called the limiting angle of frictions. Therefore you can see, you can say right here the limiting angle of frictions, we can write here tan phi is equal to capital F, means perpendicular by the base, means Rn, then tan phi is equal to F by Rn, we can easily write here. Next is angle of repose. What is the angle of repose? The angle of repose, the minimum inclinations of any plane to the horizontal, and such that body resting on the inclined plane and tend to move down the plane. The minimum inclination of the plane is known as the angle of repose. Means minimum inclinations of any plane to the horizontal in a such that the body rests in the inclined plane and tend to move or try to move downwards directions, then the minimum angle is called the angle of repose. Here we can see that the that is the inclined plane where body is resting on the inclined plane, and the angle in the inclined plane is theta, and bodies try to move down. That is the minimum. That means that is the angle of repose, the minimum angle of any plane to the horizon such that body is resting inclined plane and tend to move or try to move downward directions. That is the minimum angle of is called the angle of repose. Now the factor affecting the angle of repose. There is a many factor affecting the angle of repose. In is vary from material to materials. The individual material can affect the angle of repose, reflect the different coefficient of frictions between the different substance. Next point, the size of the particles may affecting the angle of repose. If size is coarse and fine, the angle may vary from higher lower to higher angles. Also, the moisture contents, the angle of repose can vary if the moisture sand has much higher angle as compared to the moisture content in the dry sands. So factor also, so there are many factors affecting the angle of repose. Uh, Now let's see once again. First, limiting frictions. What is the limiting friction? Is the static frictions, minimum force. Then see that the coefficient of frictions is the ratio of the friction for the normal force. Then the limiting frictions angle between the resultant and the normal force is called the limiting frictional force. Then the angle of repose, the minimum angle of which body slide down here. Here you can see that the angle theta is called the angle of repose, and after that we can see that there are many factors for affecting the angle of repose, just that we are earlier discussed. Thank you.